Well, hello, everybody. For those who don't know me, my name is Daniel Gregory. I'm pastor of Mars Hill Baptist Church in Hillsborough, North Carolina. And I wanted to do something a little bit different today. I know there's a lot of talk about when things are going to get back to normal and when we're actually going to be able to start doing the things we want to do, like going out to eat and shopping, gathering together for birthdays and anniversaries, and finally being able to come together and worship again. And I know all of that can be frustrating because I miss seeing people. I miss going out and doing all of those things and being together with friends, getting a cup of coffee somewhere. So I decided to make a little short video, and I wanted to break up kind of the monotony and frustration with something I'm calling 3 jokes in a verse. I want to tell 3 quick jokes to help us all get a little bit of a laugh, but also to share a Bible verse that means a lot to me, and along with laughing, maybe help us to lean on God just a little bit more in our lives. So 3 jokes first, and then 1 Bible verse really quick. One Sunday morning, there was a husband and wife that are in their usual spot at church. And as the service progresses, it eventually gets to time for the preacher to deliver his sermon. And the preacher begins his message, and as he usually is, he's a little bit long-winded. He's a little bit dry in his preaching, a little bit boring, and lo and behold, the husband falls asleep. Well, the preacher notices that the husband has fallen asleep, and he thinks to himself, how terrible. I can't have this happen during one of my messages. So he stops in the middle of the sermon and he says to this man's wife, listen, you need to wake your husband up. Well, the wife looks at the preacher and she doesn't meet a beat and said, you know what? You're the one who made him fall asleep. You wake him up. Our second joke is this. A Sunday school teacher was wrapping up her class and getting the children ready to go into the sanctuary for the 11 o'clock service. And she reminded her children, as they go into the sanctuary, walk, don't run, be polite and respectful to everybody in the sanctuary, and remember to always be quiet in church. And kind of wanting to give one last lesson before she dismissed her class, she asked the children, and why is it necessary to be quiet in church? And of course, there was always that one little girl, that one little boy in class that raised their arm up and said, oh, teacher, I know why we have to be quiet. We have to be quiet because people are sleeping. Finally, this. There was a 4-year-old girl who attended her very first wedding. She had lots of questions, as this was the first time she had ever seen somebody get married. And she asked about all sorts of different things. She asked, why did people get dressed up? Why did the flower girl throw the rose petals on the ground? And why were there all these candles in the sanctuary? And it was all really fascinating to her. Well, after the wedding, at the reception, her mother explained that there were 2 cakes. There was a groom's cake and also a bride's cake. And this really perplexed the little girl. So she looked at her mom and asked, what's the matter, Mom? Haven't they learned to share yet? It is good to laugh in times of trial and difficulty, but it's also good for us to lean on God in the midst of trial. So the first verse I wanted to deliver today is actually 2 verses. They go together because they share the same thought, and that is 1 Peter chapter 5, verses 6 and 7. It says this, humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, so at the proper time he may exalt you, casting all of your anxieties on him, because he cares for you. I don't know about you, but I can get wrapped up in a lot of worry and anxiety if I am not careful. Especially during this time where we have this stay-at-home order going on. I have had anxiety and worry about a lot of things. I've worried about, am I doing the right thing as a pastor? Not being able to go out and minister is frustrating. Should I be doing this or that? How can I do more? And you in your own life, you might be dealing with a lot of anxiety and worry about a lot of things. It could be about schooling. It could be about your job, about finances. It could be about a health condition. It could be this worry about when in the world is this lockdown going to end. That is why I think this verse is so important, because it directs us to place our anxieties and worries and doubts and fears in one place. And that one place is where they will do us some goods, and that is within the hands of God. The first part says stay humble. Humble yourself. And I know that's a hard thing to do sometimes, because one of the lies of worry is that if we worry or feed our anxiety, that somehow that will change the situation or make a difference. Somehow it'll give us some type of power to overcome whatever's happening. And the call of every believer is to cast, literally to throw on top of, to take all of our anxieties, our worries, and our fears, and to place them in the hands of God. I remember when I was in middle school, there was a tornado that went through Elon where I grew up, and we had 3.5 trees fall in our yard. Only one of the trees actually hit the house, and it didn't hit it that badly. And I remember that summer, I spent basically the entire time dragging limbs from the backyard to the front yard, where I piled them up at the front yard where we put our trash, and I piled them up there to be taken away. My summer was go to the backyard, pick up a limb, drag it to the front yard, and there I just left it on the big pile, and then I went back, and that's what I did. For hours and hours on end, I cast those limbs there, and I left them there. That's what we're called to do with our anxieties, with our fears, with our doubts, and our worries. We're called to go before God into the very best of our abilities, dump everything onto Him. And that means whatever is going on in our life, whatever we might be fearful about, whatever we might have doubts, whatever we might be worried about, ever how we are feeling, that's what we're to do. We're to go to God and say, God, look, here's the truth of the matter. Here's exactly how I fear. Here's my anger. Here's my anxiety. Here's my worry. Here's everything that I have. And Lord, to the very best of my ability, with all I've got, I'm just going to leave it there with you. I'm going to put it in your hands because you're Almighty God and you're in control. And the reality is that can be a very difficult action to take, because we want to hold on to things. Us in our life, we really want to just hold on to whatever it is we got. And that's where humility comes into play. That's with us saying, God, listen, I'm not Almighty God. I'm not in control of everything. And you know better than I do. So I am going to place it in your hands. And I'm not going to worry about it, because you're taking care of each and everything that's going on in my life. And when we do that, we're able to have a better and a greater peace in our life. And because of that, we can focus on things that we need to do and what we can do. We're not preoccupied with all the things that are out of our control. So the encouragement is, leave whatever anxieties we have, leave whatever we're worrying about in the hands of God. Go to Him in prayer and just say, Lord, I'm going to need some help getting rid of this, because I've held on to it for way too long. And I'm going to rest this in your hands. I'm going to leave it with you. And I'm going to trust in you, because you know better than I. My hope is that brings a blessing into your life today. Don't forget to laugh, but also don't forget to lean on God each and every moment of the day for His help. Until we meet again, be safe and be well, and God bless you.